Right, well now we're going to start modelling some stairs. We'll first of all put the set in this mezzanine area up the back corner in through here. Before we go into the stair command, you need to know what the change of level is from your lower floor up to the floor where the stairs land on. So just to remind ourselves, if you were to right click on story settings over in the pop-up navigator there, you can see that from ground floor the height to next is 3300. So we need to remember that. Let's click OK there. So let's go into the stair command, and I'll do this from the ground floor plan. If you haven't got ground floor plan open, you'll need to pop up navigator and double click on ground floor. Okay, so the stair command is over here. We'll just enter into that stair tool there. Now there are some preloaded stairs. If you did go into the settings dialog box, there are preloaded stairs in your linked libraries, but you might not have enough control to do exactly what we want by picking up one of those. So to create something from scratch the way you want it, you'd come down here to create stair. I'll just cancel out of that because you can get to the same place I wanted to show you from the stair command. Just check out your layer, stair and ramp, sounds good. And then this element here, it's set on a U-shaped stair at the moment, but you can fly out that arrow and click create stair. And that takes us into that same button where we were just before. So the type of stair selection we want, where there's ramps or there's stairs, so we'll leave it on that. And we want an L-shaped stair with a corner landing. So we'll just click OK to that. Now, probably the first thing you do when you come into this dialog box is lock off parameters that can't change, that shouldn't change. So this height from floor to the level where we're going needs to be set 3300, and then lock the padlock in so that can't change. Probably shouldn't matter if it's wise not to lock too many things too soon. You've got to do this dialog box. You can get yourself in trouble unless you follow exactly the order that I'm doing this in. So we've locked that one off first. I don't think it'd be a problem if I lock off the width of the stairs. I'm locking off the width to the stairs to concrete block modules. So there'd be block modules of 200, so we'd have 6 blocks making up 1200, but we've got an extra mortar joint to consider. So that's why I have 1210 there. Now don't change any of these. Probably the next thing you should do is come down and pick how the stairs to land at the top. So we would normally want our stairs to land with the top tread below the floor level, so you step onto the floor for the last rise. Then lock off the tread depth. We'd want that to be a minimum of 250, and then lock it off. And then you can see it's actually done a calculation for this riser height here, the height of the riser. Based on our 3300, an even number of divisions of that 3300 would give us a rise of 194. Now you'll talk about that in your construction lessons, but that would be outside code requirements in Australia. So we'll set that down to the next division. I think it's a division of 18 rises of 3300, gives you a division of 183 millimeters. It's actually 183.33333 recurring. I'm not too sure if that matters because then ArchiCAD rounds it off, but it might have kept that in its memory, the decimals in its memory, and just make it a little bit more accurate. So we'll lock that off so that can't. Now those two things are pretty important that they don't change. That we want ArchiCAD to now change all of these total going dimensions, etc., to suit those ones that we've got locked. So the next thing that I want to do is control the number of rises. It depends on your layout. We might have to try this and then come back in and try it again. But the sketch plan that we've had open before showing this layout indicated 7 rises at the bottom. So if I change that to 7 rises at the bottom, this one here changes to 11 at the top to make a total of 18 because that suits the requirements that we've locked in of a rise of 183 and a total height of 3300. Now the only other thing is give some consideration to where the handrail is going to go. In this particular case in the layout we'll have the handrail going on the outside. The reason why I'm giving consideration to that is then you can close up these dimensions here to a minimum. If you had the handrail going on the inside here, you'd want to start getting close to evening up so that by the time the handrail left this rise, it was a standard riser dimension by the time it got all the way around the corner to the next rise. That would assist in setting out a continuous handrail. It just makes it easier for the fabricator to do a continuous handrail, which is a requirement for these stairs. But in this case, if the handrail is going on the outside, the handrail can just bend, flatten out, stay flat, and then bend again to go up the rise up there. So if that's the case, we just want to turn these dimensions into some minimum dimension. I'm going to try 50 to start with, and it doesn't like that, see? So if I try something like 100 for this one, I'll put that one back up to 100, and then 100 for this one. It seems to accept it. I'm not too sure why it's a bit hard to deal with here. But if I just try something a little bit lower, 75 it accepts, and 75 I'll try that and it accepts. And then I'll try 60 and 60. And if you do it this way, I've found I can get it down to a minimum. We'll try 50 now, and it stays at 50, and we set that at 50 and it doesn't like it, see? So maybe we'll try 55, and it doesn't like that either, so I'll go back and set this one to 55 and set that one to 55, and that might be as close as we can go. We'll just try the 50 again here now. That seemed to stay, and 50 there. No. Okay, so we'll just go back and set them evenly to 55. That seems to be about the smallest that you can get down the bottom here. So we can click on to the next tab now, which would be the type of treads here. So, and the type of arrangement for the treads, I'd want a monolithic staircase through here. So I'm going to click on this last structure type. The amount of supporting concrete underneath the treads we would want to be probably 150, but that will be confirmed by our engineering consultant. The structure at the top, we had it landing on a 22mm floor. I think they were 240mm thick floor joists, so I'm not too sure why that's important to this stair maker, but we'll put that in anyway. We won't have any floor covering downstairs, it'll be sitting straight on a 150mm thick concrete slab. So materials can be set over here. The ones I've got there seem to be okay. The landing thickness, once again, confirmed by an engineer, but it's likely to be 150mm thick. If you click the clean intersection buttons, it cleans back, it adjusts the landing thickness so that the intersection finishes at that point in line with the edge of the stair. But I don't think that's terribly important. It doesn't matter if the form for the bottom feet line of the stairs slopes up to a smaller dimension. So I'm going to leave it just like that. You won't be able to change the riser settings once you've selected this type of stairs because there is no riser, so we now go straight down to the railings. With this button selected up the top here, all railings will be defined with what we're going to set up in a minute, but we don't want that. We want to select this next button. Now when you select the next button, the one that's highlighted in red over here is the one that you're currently adjusting. So if we leave that one highlighted in red, if we come over to here, your cursor changes to a little handrail. If you were to click there, this would now be the one that we're adjusting. But I'm going to start with this outside one. That's the railing that we want. So the railing type, we'll go to a simple bar. We just want a single handrail. This gives us an indication of the floor and then the railing up above the floor. We want it offset in by 75mm. You'll talk about that in your construction class as to why we want that in plan view offset 75mm. It gives knuckle clearance around the handrail to the wall that it's adjacent to. We'll leave the height at 900, I think. I don't think the bottom height will matter, and we can leave 0 for these two dimensions. Now our actual railing down here, we'll set it to be a 50mm pipe. Now it's not going to be pipe shaped, but at least it'll be somewhat rectangular shaped is the best that ArchiCAD will do. 50 by 50, so that's a square. In actual fact it'll be a 50mm circular pipe. And we can set the rail material down here to, it will be galvanized, so we'll go metal zinc. The outside coating on the steel will be zinc, so that's why I set that material there. So the next thing we're going to do is come over into this area here and bring your cursor down until it changes to a handrail shape, then click, and now this changes to what do you want on this side. So if we change that from being simple surface to no railing. Now just to check that everything's still okay, you can bring your cursor back up here until it changes to a hand railing, and that's got all of those settings from before set up just like that. Now that's pretty much all you would need to do. We can just simply click OK then. Give the stair a number, a name, so I'll just leave this called Stair 1 and click Save. And it wants to know a location, so I'll just click it somewhere on the floor for the moment, and then we can hit the escape key so that we can then rotate our stair into place. So if we click on any one of the nodes, change to the rotate pet tool, click a starting point, click a starting direction, and click a finishing direction. And then click a node again so you can change the pet tool back to drag, and drag it into this corner here. So if we highlight the guideline, we can get it lined up like that, or you may have your wall already coming into the side there with no gap. That would be fine also. Okay, so that's that stair. We'll have a look at what we created in 3D here now. So you can zoom in through the back there, and you can see we've got our stair with the one handrail adjacent to the wall. There's a little bit of a gap, 50mm gap for knuckle clearance in behind that handrail, which you'll discuss in the construction class. Okay, well I'm just going to save the video at that point, and then we'll have a look at another stair.